Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this EV Charging Basics workshop. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Irvin Rivero, and I will be your host for tonight. I'm a part of the GoEV staff here at Actera, and my position is the e-mobility associate. We also have Jackie with us tonight, and she's the beneficial electrification manager. And then tonight we will be joined by Lauren Weston. She's the executive director of Actera. So stay tuned towards the end of the presentation where she will share her experience of installing an EV charger in her home later. And then this presentation is being recorded and we'll be able to send you a copy of the recording. So you may have your camera on or off. And then all attendee microphones are going to be turned off to ensure that no one comes off mute so we can hear the presenters. If you guys have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the Zoom chat and we will try to answer them at the end of the presentation during the Q&A session. So thank you for being here tonight and joining us. By being here, you're helping us fulfill Actera's mission. At Actera, our mission is to bring people together to create local solutions for a healthier planet, and it's all with an equity lens. And we're located in Palo Alto, but we serve the residents of the 9 counties of the Bay Area. And the GoEV program was first started in 2018 to honor the local legend Carl Knapp. He was a longtime Stanford professor, a renewable energy expert, and an Earth champion all around. And for many years, he promoted the merits of electric vehicles to his students and colleagues. But now Actera carries on his legacy through the Carl Knapp GoEV program. And make sure to visit our website for more information on other electric vehicle events that we have coming in 2024. And it's good to know about our other programs as well, previous programs. So check out our website for more information if you want a consultation, if you're interested in becoming an EV ambassador, upcoming events, and some of our advocacy efforts. And before we dive into the specifics of EV charging tonight, I'd like to thank the sponsor for tonight, the City of Palo Alto Utilities. As the City of Palo Alto Utilities is helping residents of multifamily properties get access to charging with a rebate that they offer. So landlords are able to receive this rebate when they install chargers on their multifamily properties. They can receive a rebate of up to $80,000. And on the screen is an email and phone number from the City of Palo Alto to contact them if you have any questions. And Jackie will be putting a link to their website for more information on EVs. So now let's start off by going over some of the most compelling benefits to driving an electric vehicle. There is the enjoyable driving experience, which means a smoother ride, better safety features, it's quiet, it's convenient, it's safer. The second reason is that there is lower maintenance costs associated with electric vehicles. EV owners will spend half as much as gas car owners over the lifetime of on their car in maintenance. There's also zero emissions when driving your electric vehicle, of course, depending on where you get the energy to charge your car. But here in California, for the most part, we get energy from clean energy sources through community choice aggregators like San Jose Clean Energy, Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And even though the energy is being delivered through the PG&E power lines, it's still clean because it's generated from clean sources. In Palo Alto, we have the City of Palo Alto Utilities, and they do the generation and the delivery. So when you charge with this clean energy, you know you're driving, you're not emitting emissions. And then there's also lower fuel cost, depending on where and how you charge. But because electricity is always cheaper than the price of the gas, you'll be saving money. And then the other benefit is having access to the HOV lane where you can travel in the carpool lane as a single passenger. And so if you buy a new electric vehicle, make sure you take advantage of this benefit. You can also qualify if you buy a used EV and you income qualify to renew the sticker. And this program is going to be ending in September of 2025. And so now let's get into the EV fuel cost or charging cost. EV charging is just going to be less than the price of gas, even if the electricity is labeled as expensive, it'll still be less. So we can compare the price of charging your EV versus the price of gas. And so we just have to look at how much you're going to be spending per mile that you drive. So if you charge with the City of Palo Alto Utilities with a rate of 30 cents per kilowatt, that'll be around 10 cents per mile. If you use PG&E nighttime charging rate, that's 24 cents per kilowatt, which equals out to 8 cents per mile when you charge. And then if you're charging with your solar rates, it'll be 3 cents per mile. And then the only exception is if you're, charging with public chargers. Those will typically be around 10 cents per mile, all the way up to 30 cents per mile. And then we can look at the gas equivalent of that. Let's say we have a car that has a 25 mile per gallon rate range. That's average. And then the price of gas would be $6 per gallon. That'll be 24 cents per mile. So you take a look at the differences. It's significantly less to charge your EV than it is to fuel up a gas car. And then some factors that affect the mileage that you get from your electric vehicle. It's going to be 4 things. There's the temperature that's inside and outside of the car. So if you run the AC or the heating, it'll use some of the battery range. So it could decrease that way. Another factor is your speed. So in an EV, you're going to get a little bit worse mileage on the highway. And it's the opposite of an internal combustion engine or a gas car. The gas cars are more efficient when you're on the highway. And an EV, it's the opposite. So they're not as efficient on the highway, but they're more efficient city driving on the streets. And then EV mileage is also going to be affected by the aerodynamics of the car. This is why some EVs, they look a little bit futuristic or different than normal cars. The designers of the electric vehicles, they're trying to get the least resistant coefficient, and this improves the aerodynamics so that it'll, travel on the freeway smoother, won't have as much drag, and it'll increase the range of the car. And then also your lead foot. So do you guys drive fast and, put your foot to the gas? Like, this is not so good on an EV. It'll decrease the range of your battery. And then sometimes it's a little bit better to see how efficient an EV can be. So just don't put don't have a heavy lead foot. And then there's 3 levels to charging an electric vehicle. There's the level 1, the level 2, and the level 3, or also known as DC fast charging. So level 1 is just going to be your typical plug, the 120 volt outlet. It's typically on a 15 amp circuit, and those provide around 1.4 kilowatts of hour of energy per hour of charge. And so if you have a 15 amp circuit, 120 volts, you'll get 1.4 of energy that you're putting into your car every hour. And you can think of a kilowatt hour as 1 gallon of fuel. So we can take an example of a Tesla Model 3. Those have a battery of 75 kilowatt hours. And so it can also be described as a 75 gallon fuel tank. So when you see 1.4 kilowatts, you're basically filling up that Tesla fuel tank 1.4 gallons every hour. So on a level 1 charger, it's going to take a long time to fill up that 75 gallon tank. But it's surprisingly reasonable if you don't drive that much. So charging 10 hours on a level 1 will give you 20 to 50 miles of range. And then the average commute in the Bay Area is around 40 miles. So this could be enough for some people, especially if they don't drive as much. And then we have the level 2, which is a lot faster. Some EVs are going to be compatible with level 2 chargers. the level 2 charger itself has to have a dedicated 240-volt circuit. And although some electric vehicle chargers, they can be combined with the dryer outlet if it is nearby, if you have one nearby. You can use that one as well, so you won't have to install a level 2 in your home. And then these are the different ranges that can, this is the different miles of range that can be added per hour. Depends on how much the circuit size is, where you have your 240 volt. But it can provide anywhere from 5 miles per hour all the way up to 44 miles per hour. Again, depending on the amp circuit that you have, where your level 2 charger is. And then we're going to have the level 3 charging. This is the fastest level of charging, and it's not available to install in your home. These are only found out in public. And these can give you up to 1,000 miles of driving range every hour for a brief period. And they can provide you 80% of the charge in your car in only 20 to 30 minutes. It's very fast, so it's not always recommended that you use these chargers all the time because it can decrease the battery life of your car because it's accepting energy so fast into the battery. So still try to use the level 2 charging as regularly as possible and only use level 3 charging when you're traveling super long distances. And then here are the public charging networks that are available. We have ChargePoint, EVgo, Electrify America, and the Tesla Supercharger Network. The Tesla Superchargers, they provide up to 250 kilowatts per hour at a peak, so that's the most you can get. And then Electrify America will provide up to 350 kilowatts per hour. And then when you hear the kilowatts per hour, it can be a little hard to understand. So here we have, for example, the Electrify America, they have 350 kilowatts per hour. That equals 350 watts. And that can power up to 5,833 60-watt light bulbs. Nowadays, we use more efficient light bulbs than the 60-watt. We use like 10-watt light bulbs. So 350 kilowatts can power easily 30,000 light bulbs that are 10 watts. So it's a lot of energy going into the car with this level 3 DC fast charging. All right, so how many miles do you drive per day will determine how much a day you're going to spend on charging. So if you do like a 30-mile daily round commute and you charge with PG&E's electric vehicle rate, they charge 24 cents per kilowatt. To charge 30 miles, you would need to charge at least 6.7 hours on the level 1 charger, or only 1.4 hours on the level 2 charger. And that rounds out to about $2.40 per day, charging a 30-mile range. And then if you were to compare that with gas, it would be $6.66 a day that you would be spending on just the 30-mile range. We can also put that in a 200-mile trip. If you're going somewhere far, you need to do the 200 miles. This will require 67 kilowatts of energy. And then if you were going to do this on a level 1 charger to recharge the battery again, that would take 45 hours or 9.3 hours on a level 2 charger. So this would be a $16 charging cost. And then for gas, it's going to be $44.50. So you're saving a lot of money if you're charging your EV instead of putting gas. And then let's say you want to install a level 2 charger in your home to take advantage of the faster charging. First, the electrician will have to do some calculations to see if there is enough space in your circuit breaker, in your panel, to accommodate some new electricity going into your home. So they would have to do a calculation to determine the right charger size, the location. They'll After they look at the calculation, they'll see a good location so that they can install the charge port. This is a Tesla Model 3 where the charger is on the left side. So anywhere on this left side here is typically where they install the chargers. Maybe you have an EV that's on the right side, so it would be on, you would have to install the level 2 charger on somewhere on the right side. But for Teslas, they're on the left. Then after the location is determined, they will have to install the wiring and some of the electrical stuff. If you need a panel upgrade, they'll also do that. And then they also need to do the permitting and the inspection from the city. And then selecting the level 2 charger itself, you have a lot of options. There's Universal, which is ChargePoint, Wallbox, Bosch, Flow, or any specific brand that the car manufacturer recommends. And then Tesla can also charge from any of these with an adapter, because every Tesla comes included with an adapter. So you can install any of these here. And then you would have to figure out if your car is going to reach, because the longest core that is allowed, is only 25 feet. So if you're further than that 25 feet, you would have to figure something out there. And so now, what is the cost of the level 2 charger? For a company called EV Experts, this is their breakdown. They have an average electric vehicle supply equipment. That project, on average, cost around $3,200. That was in 2021. The lowest project cost that they had was someone who only paid $900, and someone who paid up to $20,000. And this includes the permit costs, which is around $260 in 2021. It includes the cost of the level 2 charger itself. If you need it, it'll be $500 to $700. And a lot of electricians, they buy like bulk buys of the chargers, so they'll include it in this $3,200 price. And then any infrastructure upgrade costs that you need, like you might have to upgrade your panel. You might want to install like a smart panel like this one here, pictured on the left. This one's called span.io. There's also smart panel upgrades. And then whatever management devices that you're going to install as well. So typically it's an investment. It'll be an investment of $3,200, and you're going to be helping the environment. It's for your convenience, and there's going to be a lower transportation cost tied to this. And so if someone were to ask you how much would you spend for a private gas pump in your home that would provide gas for 70% off, how much would you be willing to pay? So that's the question there. And there are some rebates and grants to offset the cost of installing the level 2 charger. Right now, there's a federal tax credit where you can get up to $1,000 off of the purchase and the installation of a level 2 charger in your home. The city of Palo Alto provides rebates for multifamily dwellings. And then the city of Santa Clara also has some for single family residents and for the multifamily properties. The city of Alameda also provides $800 of a rebate to their customers. And then for income qualifying residents, there's some programs that you can apply to. Jackie will put another link in the chat where you can check your zip code, and it's called Electric for All. It's a great resource to check any EV incentives when you purchase an electric vehicle, and also any charging incentives. And if you want to switch your rate plan from your utility provider, they also have specific rate plans. And so let's take example PG&E. They have a time of use rate. This typically incentivizes people to not use energy during 4 to 9 p.m. And so if you were to switch from a typical time of use rate plan, you bought an electric vehicle and you want to switch to one of their cheaper EV rate plans, where you can receive a lower price per kilowatt hour from charging your car from midnight to 3 p.m. Um, this will save you money on the long run. I think if you stay on the time of use rate plan and then you charge your car, it'll still be your electricity bill will come out a little bit more expensive. So they incentivize EV owners to switch to some of their rate plans, and they offer two different ones. And then the city of Palo Alto also offers some rate plans. It's very cheap, 14 cents per kilowatt hour. And then after you exceed that baseline allowance, then it'll go to 19 cents per kilowatt hour. And there are some options for people who live in apartments. AB 2565 passed. It was a legislature, and it said that landlords must approve renters' requests to install chargers in multifamily apartments, condos. Some of the rules are that your request must be made in writing, and you must pay for all of the cost unless the landlord agrees to pay the cost for all of the residents. And there are some exceptions, like if the multifamily housing has more than 5 parking spots, or if there's already 10% of the parking spots that already have EV chargers on. And your landlord can also install something like this, like a smart outlet. This one on the right is can provide up to up to 2 different people charging their electric vehicle. These ones on the left and the right are 120 volt outlets, so it would be the level 1 charging. And then if only one person was going to use this is a 240 volt outlet here in the middle, connected to like a 30 amp circuit. So you would still get level 2 charging from this one here in the middle. And then Plugsy.io is a normal 120 volt outlet. And then there's also a concierge service. Let's say you forgot to charge your EV at night and you need to, drive somewhere later in the day. This service will come directly to wherever you are to charge your vehicle. And then there's also public charging available everywhere in the Bay Area. I would recommend downloading an app called PlugShare. And this shows you all of the EV chargers in the area, not just in the Bay Area, but in all of the United States. And it shows you the cost of the kilowatt per hour as well. And then I'd like to take a quick moment to share a little bit about how we can make access to EV charging more equitable. Because right now, a lot of residents of apartments and condos, they face the barriers of charging their car, like the increased fees when charging or the longer wait times for waiting up for an apartment charger to open up. And so Actera is part of the EV Charging for All Coalition. It's a diverse coalition of clean transportation advocates, environmental justice organizations, apartment and condo residents, and just everyone who's trying to advocate for equitable access to EV charging for everyone in California. And so I'm going to leave a link in the chat. It's a petition that everyone can fill out. It's so that the city of San Jose, the city council can pass so that if they will require that every newly built apartment or condo must have a parking space assigned with an EV ready charging receptacle, and it'll be directly wired to the residence panel or the meter. So this is a great way to show that we should have equitable charging for apartment residents as well. And appreciate if you guys fill that petition out. And then moving on again to the public charging networks, we have Electrify America, Tesla, ChargePoint, and EVgo. And there is a new feature coming out soon that's it's called Plug and Charge. You just plug and charge right away. Right now, Tesla has this feature, It kind of knows who you are as soon as you plug in your electric vehicle. You don't have to swipe a card or anything. It's kind of like a digital handshake. It makes it a lot easier. And then for other charging, public chargers, again, download PlugShare. This will give you the charging speed, level 1, level 2, level 3 chargers in the area. And it also has the charging costs on there. If you need a specific outlet to charge, let's say you have a Tesla, then you would find the public chargers that have the Tesla. If you had a Nissan Leaf that uses the old Chad MO, then you could look for that one, or any superchargers that charge really fast, like the level 3. And then it'll put you put all the EV chargers here on the map for you. And so many electric vehicles will show you the nearby compatible chargers. And so if you're not charging at a Tesla charging station, you have to configure your car, the app, and some of the payment options before you go to charge. Like I said, in the future, the other public charging networks will have that digital handshake, so you won't have to pull out your card and pay for whatever charging you're going to get. But for now, you do need some type of form of payment when you go to the public chargers, and you would need some form of ID so that the charger knows who you are and that you're charging at that station. So some type of barcode, the registration on your phone, or some auto sense on your vehicle. And then there's different charging options on the charging networks. In California, we use per kilowatt hour, so they're going to charge you per kilowatt hour that you use. Maybe somewhere else in the US, you're going to find charging pricing by the hour. So sometimes electricity can't be sold like a utility, so they will use this by the hour charge. And then also expect that not every public charger is going to work properly. That's just the way it is, and there's forums that they're like fixing it right now. You can put a complaint and they'll come and fix it a couple of days after. So they're not always reliable. The most reliable is going to be Tesla. And so some of the future capabilities of EVs, it's exciting. We have the vehicle to grid. You're going to be able to use your car battery to charge your house in case of a blackout. There's also time shift energy use. You'll be able to charge at night and then use your car battery during the evening in your house. And then car companies don't really like this vehicle to grid because it'll compromise the battery, the longevity of the battery. There's also some future capability of integrating it with your home applications, connecting it to your solar, connecting it to your HVAC and water heater, so that it can all be powered off of your car battery. And then coming in the future, there's also faster charging that's going to be available. The battery longevity is affected by the charging speed and the depth of discharge. So there's going to be new battery technologies. There's going to be longer ranges and just more fasting acceptance of the electricity going into the battery. And there's also new and cooler pickups that are coming onto the market. The Ford F-150 Lightning is already out, and this one is capable of the vehicle to grid. You can also power tools, like this guy is showing here. Has a really big frunk. It comes with 120 volt outlets so that you can power stuff. So that's called vehicle to load. And then it's also capable of doing vehicle to grid. And that just requires a little bit more of a connection with your home and the grid, so that if you're doing that vehicle to grid, you know, it's not harming someone who's working on the PG&E power lines. There's a way that you have to shut off the electricity that you're accepting from the grid and only getting it from your vehicle. So there's more work to be done there. Rivian R1T, and then Cybertruck is coming soon as well. And so here are a majority of the highlights from the presentation. Is that electric vehicles, they're no longer a gimmick or a joke. They're really cool. They're really coming out with incredible technology. It's going to be the future, and the future is arriving pretty quick. The benefits are really substantial. We have lower operating costs, lower maintenance costs. It's better to drive. The experience of the driving electric vehicles is better, and it's just better for the environment overall. And some of the inconveniences that were first, when electric vehicles were first introduced, those are slowly disappearing. Like sometimes they didn't have long enough ranges, but now car companies are trying to make them up to 300 miles of range. It's a lot easier to charge with a level 1, with a level 2, and a lot of better charging networks coming on. And then so many vehicle choices, more electric vehicles coming out on the market all the time. In 2024, we have a lot of new models coming out. Honda will have their new electric vehicle, and just better iterations of previous electric vehicles. And so is Lauren here with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce Lauren. She's going to talk about her experience of installing her level 2 charger in her own house.
Thank you so much, Urban. Thanks, Jackie, for handling the chat. My name is Lauren Weston. I'm the Executive Director of Actera, Action for a Healthy Planet, and I have been with Actera for 4.5 years now. And when I started at Actera, I had never worked in climate. We lived in San Francisco. We did a lot of public transportation. I used public transportation to get to and from work. And then I needed to commute from San Francisco to our offices in Palo Alto. And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to do research on electric vehicles. Now, at the time, I did not know the amount of information that I know now. I did not have access to the amazing experts that I have access to now. Some of them are in the chat, like Jim and others that are helping us answer questions. So I dove into what the needs of my family were. And what you see here is my avatar. I was called Green Lightning. We did a campaign for Stanford University students around electrifying your ride. And this is my Kia Niro plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. I chose this because living in San Francisco, I was like, what happens in an emergency? Where do I need to get to? And I need to get to my mom and dad's. They live in the Central Valley. It was 180 miles. It was like, how can I get to my mom and dad's if I only have, 30 miles of charge, or even 150 miles of charge, or heaven forbid, I'm not fully charged. All those things were running through my head. Now, mind you, this is before I learned all of the stuff I learned. It's before I even knew that there was something called range anxiety. So this is stuff that I was working through on my own prior to joining Actera. So I chose a plug-in hybrid vehicle because I could charge at home. I could still get to my mom and dad's if I needed to, because that was in my head, worst case scenario, where do I need to get to? And it was the best decision I made for my family. You can see in that image, I have my 3 dogs in the back. I had a little girl at the time. Now I have 2 little girls. And we lost the slide. We'll get it back. So I needed to make sure that I could fit my whole life inside this car. So there's a lot of decisions about size and spacing and range, and would it actually, fit in my little parking space that I had in my housing in San Francisco. We didn't have access to a garage. We didn't have access to public charging. So I actually had to snake the charger outside of a window and down the sidewalk to my car. Now we have a garage. I still have the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, but I was able to install a charger in my garage, which I'll get to in a second. So we've upgraded, we've elevated our ride. How I use my vehicle, and one of the reasons I decided to do this was the everyday use trips. I have a 26-mile range on my battery. For 99% of my driving, I can do all of that on a battery if I'm going to the grocery store, if I have to go to the post office, whatever it might be, if I have to go to my daughter's soccer game, I can get there and back, and probably a few other places in between on the battery. Now, charging an EV rate, I watch out for time of use. I charge after 9 o'clock at night. I charge until the morning if I need to, and I'm fully charged in the morning when I need my vehicle to be ready for me and my family. So that is my journey. The next slide tells you the details of my charging pathway. So one of the key components for me was reliability. I did a lot of research on the reliability of home chargers. I settled on ChargePoint. I actually ordered the Home Flex charger, which goes up to 50 amp, because I had a 50 amp breaker available in my panel. I was like, this is perfect. I'll have, full access to a really high-end charger. I'll be able to, have great amperage available to me. I have this Wi-Fi accessibility, so I could charge if I was upstairs doing bedtime. I could, set charging times around time of use. And the install was not painless, but not as painful as I expected it to be. I went on Nextdoor and I asked my community of really good electricians that folks had used in our community, and I got some wonderful referrals. I got multiple quotes on the charging install. I got someone who was really comfortable doing ChargePoint installs. They had experience doing that specifically, which made me feel a lot better. They came back a couple of times to make sure everything was working. They, checked the breaker multiple times. They made me feel really confident in their abilities. And now I have this charger. So you can see this is actually the charger that I have in my garage. I back in to park and I plug in right from the wall. It's grounded. It's rated for indoor or outdoor. I'm clearly using it indoors. I have a dedicated parking spot. My husband parks on the other side so that I can have access to the charger. And this is what we decided to do. And it's worked incredibly well for our family. The total cost between the permitting, the cost of the unit, and the install from the electrician was about $3,200, which matches what Irvin was mentioning earlier around average costs. And all said and done, we were installed in about 3.5 to 4 hours. The longest part of all of that was getting the charger to be delivered, because you have the lead time of the delivery, and then also trying to find the right electrician and doing the quotes. Once I found that, it was super, super easy. And I absolutely love having the access to charging in my house. It makes me actually have the opposite of range anxiety. It feels a lot more safe. And I saw a comment just come in about solar. If you're interested, I'm going to be telling my story about converting to a heat pump on Tuesday night. We have another workshop series called Green at Home, and I've actually electrified my whole house. So I have solar, which is the low hanging fruit. Everything runs off of clean energy, which is fantastic. So I have the whole kit and caboodle, the heat pump water heater. I have an induction range. I have the charger. And so this is just one component of my electrification story. So if you want to hear more, you'll have to come back on Tuesday night, and Jackie can give more details about that in the chat as well. But this is it. It took a long time to get here. I did a lot of research, and I did it at a point where I did not have the resources that I do now through Actera. So a lot of it was just learning for the first time and figuring out, where mistakes could be made, which, was really in picking the electrician and the type of charging station. Those were kind of the two biggest sticking points for me. But I'm so, so glad that I did it. And I'm really, really happy with the results. And if you have questions, I'm going to be hanging around. You can ask me in the chat as well. And I'll put my email address in the chat too, so you can contact me after the fact. But I'd love to share more about my story in the coming weeks around my electrification journey, and the charging was just a super fun part of that. Thanks so much for listening to my story.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So we're gonna switch over to the question and answer, but first I wanted to share what Lauren said about the upcoming event. This event is next Tuesday, November 21st. It's from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we'll be covering HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, the benefits of it, how to install one yourself, some of the rebates available, and some more information from Lauren on her process of installing one in her own home. And so we put the link in the chat for this event. register if you're interested. And then let's get on to the questions. At this time, I'm gonna let people come off mute if they wanted to and ask any questions. So people should be allowed to unmute now and ask a question, or just type more questions into the chat and I will moderate the questions.
Could I have a question?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
I just bought a Chevy Volt Bolt EUV, and it has a level 2 and level 1 charger included. And I have a 30 amp dryer circuit. Will it just the level 2 to the ability of the supply?
Yeah, so if you have that level 2 240-volt outlet already as like your dryer, what you can do is buy a splitter, I believe, and so you can also install the level 2 charger on that outlet. So, you know, typically from the research that we saw of the average cost, that was for people who had to install like a panel upgrade to buy the level 2 charger itself. So for your instance, you could be one of those people that only have to pay $900 to the electrician, because you're still going to have to do a permit, an inspection from the city, and then they'll just have to install the level 2 charger for you. So Chevy Bolt, I think, is one of those companies that provides their customers of Bolts and EUVs with a level 2 charger. So that I think you mentioned you got it for free. So you basically are saving $500 there. You don't have to buy the charger. And so you can just buy, you know, talk with the electrician of your choice that you already have a 240-volt outlet in your driveway because it's connected to the dryer. You will buy a splitter so that you can use both at the either or. You can't use both at the same time. I'm not sure. I think you can't be drying your clothes while you're charging your EV, but it'll still work with that 240-volt outlet that you already have there. Hope that answers your question.
Will it adjust to the charging rate to the supply?
I can speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Jim.
Here's the unit that they supply. Okay. It comes with multiple plugs, right? So that the two they give you are the 120 volt, and then they also give you the 240 volt 50 amp. When you change that, right? When you swap it out, you plug this into the unit, right? It knows what's connected to it. You need to go to your GM dealer and buy the plug for your 30 amp outlet. When you insert that plug, the charger will know it's on a 30 amp circuit and it will adjust itself to that amperage. So go to your Chevy dealer and tell them you want the dryer plug.
Thank you.
Yeah, very simple. So this charger comes with two, but there's a whole variety of plugs available for it through your dealer. They'll probably have to order it. You'll probably have to make 2 trips, but you can use this charger, and the plug, I think it's a lot less than the cost of a new charger. I don't know what they charge for them. So I have
That
the
was
same
awesome,
car.
Jim.
I have the same car that you do. So I've just been through this. So it does work.
That was super helpful.
Yeah.
Hi, we'd like to use the solar energy that we generate. We have solar panels to charge our car because of the low energy generation that we get from the NEM2. We would like to charge our car using during the super off-peak period on the weekends, which down in San Diego is till 2 o'clock. So have you ever, so what we're trying to do is charge during the day on the weekends, which is super off-peak, until 2 o'clock, and which will use our solar energy, or at least we'll at least charge part of our car with the solar energy generation. Have you heard of a strategy like that? How to maximize the solar energy generation that you use for EV charging?
Lauren, do you want to speak a little bit? I know you have solar panels.
Yeah, I mean, I think I may not be fully understanding the question, and I'll answer the way that I think is the right answer. So Jim, step in if I'm not answering this correctly. So for me, I have an east-west facing house. So I actually have solar panels and added solar panels to both sides. So I have 15 panels on each side of my roof. So I'm producing energy all day long. So when I'm charging, I'm trying to stay off peak hours. For us, that's 4 to 9. I totally appreciate that you're charging on the weekend. I know that can be difficult when you're trying to manage life stuff too. So for me, it's just purely matching my energy production to my energy output. And I am pretty aware of what that looks like based on the panel I have and all of the electrification I've done. My panel's kind of maxed out, but I'm maxing out all my energy usage and watching my kilowatt hours from my Enphase panels. So I know how much I'm producing, and I also know how much I'm using on a daily basis. And then I track those user patterns month to month when I get my reports in. I have only had my charger through one winter, so I'm actually going to be tracking what happens with solar and my energy usage with my EV charger on the Enphase reports as we go through winter again. So it may actually be different, but during the summer, it's never been an issue. I don't know if that fully addresses your question, but you can map out how much you're producing and how much you're expending. Oh, Jim, you're on mute. I see your mouth moving.
There you go. Yeah, I can add to that. So it sounds like you want to maximize the amount of energy produced by your panels to go into the car. And the good news is you can buy the charger that Lauren has, and there are others, but you want basically a smart EV charger, and then you can actually turn on scheduled charging. So you can plug your car in any old time you want, and you can choose when it will actually begin charging and when it will actually end charging. I have a little graph on our fridge to show my family when it's best to use, the max, do your laundry, run the dishwasher, do all during these certain hours. In our particular case, it's between like 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. before the sun goes behind the trees, right? So your solar system should give you some kind of graphical output showing the peak there. And also a lot of these chargers, I know the ChargePoint just added this feature where you can manually dial the current down to match the current so that only the solar energy is going in there and not anymore.
It looks like there's a follow-up. Do you have a follow-up? Yep.
Yeah, that was great. That was exactly. Well, thank you. That was good.
We're crowdsourcing solutions for you. This is.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. I'm one of Actera's EV ambassadors. If you haven't figured that out.
You should rename yourself. Take credit for that, Jim.
So, any other questions?
Yeah, actually, I have a comment. I used to work for an EV charger company, and I've also worked for Span.io. So, any questions about those products, let me know. But I have two, comments. First on David, who wants to reuse an existing 30 amp dryer outlet, and make sure that you buy a charging station that can be configured to deliver no more than 24 amps, which is the maximum that you can draw from continuous draw from a 30 amp outlet, so that you're not overdrawing and overloading the dryer outlet.
Exactly. So the one that GM sells for the 30 amp plug will tell that charger box to draw no more than 24.
Now, almost all level 2 chargers, so the 240 volt chargers can be reconfigured to a lower amperage than their maximum. So even if you buy a 40 amp charging station, usually you can reconfigure it, for example, to 24 amps for a 30 amp circuit. The other comment about getting a permit, if you have an existing 240 outlet sitting there, and you buy a charging station that you plug in instead of not a hard wire, then you don't need a permit for plugging in a charging station. So permitting can be avoided if you ask or you already have an outlet that you can reuse. And usually electricians are used to installing an outlet. So if you're just asking them to install an outlet in your garage, permitting usually is much easier than getting a charging station installed in your garage. So often it is interesting to focus on charging stations that you can plug in instead of ones that need to be hardwired.
That's a great addition. Is it Core? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Lauren, I wanted to know what city you live in and which car you own.
I own a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It's a 2019. And so earlier I mentioned my in emergency situation, where do I need to get to? I need to get to my parents. Well, I actually live 7 houses down from my mom and dad now. So I don't live in San Francisco anymore. I moved closer to my parents during the pandemic because they were my emergency spot.
So you're PG&E, not Palo Alto.
Right, yeah. Any other
Thank you. That's
questions?
great. Just completed your story, which was wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You'll have to come on Tuesday to learn about the heat pump.
Yeah. How long have you had that installed?
2021, fall of 2021.
Oh yeah, I'm very interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, it was pre-rebates.
We just did our heat pump last week.
So, okay, we've already got a good group. Come back on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
Any other EV related questions, charger related questions that I can answer, or Irvin or Jim or Jackie can take on?
I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion that if you have a 2-car garage, you can put, and you just have one charger, you can put the charger in the middle, and then you can configure your cars accordingly, because once you get one EV, you most likely will get a second EV.
Absolutely.
If you're a 2-car home, excuse me.
Yeah, we're actually having that conversation now because our second vehicle, the one that we had when we were a single car family, is a Kia Sorento. And when we change from the Sorento, we are going to get a full electric vehicle. And so we're trying to navigate the charging situation. So that's a really good point, Harold.
We have 3 EVs and we get by with one charger, no problem. The cord reaches all 3 parking spaces we have, the one in the garage and the 2 in the driveway. So configure it as though that you might be wanting to plug in any number of places.
And the specs on my charger is on the previous slide from the very end, and I have a 25-foot cord. So I have a feeling we would be okay as well. But yes, that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
I think Jim and Core mentioned that throttling technique. So you only charge as much as you generate. I have a Tesla and a Tesla charger, level 2 charger. How do you do that? How do you?
Actually, with your Tesla, it's in the app. So I think it's in the app, or it's actually on the dashboard of the car. You can go in the car. The Teslas are very sophisticated. They're a car that an engineer can really get around get behind, because they actually allow you to go into the car's configuration and dial it down on the screen. I have the same charger that Lauren has. I have the ChargePoint Home. And if you come up with the app and then you go to the home charger, there's a place where you basically tell the charger, okay, it's set up to draw no more than what's allowed by the circuit as set up by the electrician, but you can dial it down from that level to match the amperage that you have, right? So I can
Yeah,
show
that of course
requires
that you have connected your charger to the cloud, to the internet.
Yeah, it's got to be on the same. It's got to be on it. It's got to be a Wi-Fi enabled charger.
Okay.
What they call smart. So there are smart chargers that allow you to do the scheduling thing, allow you to dial the current up and down, and then there are like the one Sybil mentioned, the Clipper Creek, where they just plug and charge, and sometimes that's all anybody really cares about or needs. So there's lots of options there.
Thank you all. This is awesome.
I feel like my whole life is driven by an app, so I don't know if the Clipper one would have worked for me, but that's another story.
Yeah, we have a
I've
few more
heard-
minutes. If any other questions?
Yeah, I've heard that there are free public chargers available. Do you know of anyone?
Did you say free public chargers?
Free, level 2
Oh,
public.
3.
chargers.
So both the PlugShare and the ChargePoint app will allow you to filter all the ones that are free and basically show only those on the map, and you can see if there are any free ones near you.
And it will also map out level 3 or DC fast chargers if that was.
Yeah, you can
what you were
filter
saying,
by
I may have misheard.
whatever. Exactly. You can filter by whatever is important to you. PlugShare is nice because you can say, well, okay, I'm looking for a place to stay overnight that has EV charging, and you can actually filter for lodging with EV charging and quickly find a hotel to make sure you're charged the next morning.
And that's what I do because our offices are in Palo Alto. So when I come in for work, that's what I do. I pick where I stay based on where there's EV charging, what hotel has EV charging. So that's a really good point, Jim.
And another point about hotel EV charging is when you check it on PlugShare, even though it's on there, be sure to call the hotel and make sure that it still works and that it's available. Sometimes you can convince them to put a cone in front so that you'll have a place to park, because a lot of times gas cars love those parking spaces.
Yeah, they're premium spots.
I also recommend when you get your EV, just go ahead and go on Amazon or wherever and order. I like the Electron branded one, but order the Tesla if you didn't buy a Tesla and you have a conventional, I drive a Chevy Bolt, have the standard EV charging port, go ahead and buy the Tesla adapter, because a lot of hotels have only Tesla level 2 chargers, and you want to expand those options and just have that there. It's $150. It's cheap insurance, and if you road trip a lot, which you will be, you'll want to have that adapter handy.
That's great. Well, I, for one, have to go do bedtime for 2 little girls, so I have to say goodbye. It's been a pleasure getting questions from you and sharing your evening. Thank you guys so much, but I will head out. If there are questions for me, I'll really quickly put my email in the chat for you, and you're welcome to email me. But thank you for spending your Thursday night with us.